All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Airbit's final program for this year's Women's History Month. My name is Brittany White, and I'm Airbit's A&R and Community Coordinator. And I'm super excited to present to you guys a panel entitled Breaking Bad with Women in Music. The women that you will hear from tonight, in my opinion, are super, super dope. In one way or another, they're all trailblazers in their field, and they're taking up space in spaces that were not necessarily created for them. So for the next 60 minutes or so, we're going to hear their stories. We're going to discuss their successes, any obstacles and how they overcame those, and just learn some really cool, insightful ways on how to navigate through a male-dominated industry. So without any further delay, let me go ahead and introduce our panelists. So first, I would like to introduce Millie Harris. Millie is an executive producer of Viral in the Verse, also known as VITV. She's been a producer of the show since its inception back in 2020, and has helped not only grow the brand, but also the viewership. Millie is also currently in grad school studying anthropology, and as a lover of hip hop, art, poetry, and music of all kinds, she hopes to continue to build VITV as well as travel the world, providing a platform for artists worldwide. Millie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
Next,
you.
I want to introduce Cherise Johnson. Cherise is an LA-based music writer and master social media curator. Currently, she writes for Uproxx's music section, curating the branding experience and producing original content for its readers. She's a co-curator of Uproxx's sessions, and she's also a host for How I Blew Up, which is a really cool show, which gives artists an opportunity to kind of tell their story on their rise to fame. Cherise, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me.
Next, we have Kate Miller. Kate is actually not in the music industry, but she is in an industry that I feel as though is also just, if not more, a little more male-dominated than music. She is in the cannabis industry. Kate is the co-founder and CEO of Miss Grass, which is an online shop for all things cannabis and CBD. She's been a pioneer for women in the cannabis industry. And what started as a side project with a simple URL purchase turned into a full-blown online shop and wellness brand focused on accessibility, education, and ending the stigma surrounding marijuana. Kate's dedicated to educating the community on the science, the history, and the culture of cannabis and the spirit of conscious consumption, while also making it accessible for everyone. Kate, thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Next, we have music industry OG A&R guru, Paula Moore. Paula was the first female A&R research executive in the music industry and built the industry's first A&R research platform that connected A&R executives, staff, scouts, artists, and data, while also executive at 2 major labels. Today, she's still the only female senior level A&R research executive with IP assets. And she also just recently released a book titled Glitter and Grit, Be Greater as a Creative, which kind of walks readers through not only how to be greater as a creative professional, but also gives great insight on her personal experiences in the music industry. Paula, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. I'm sorry, the sun just came out. I'm like all covered in sunlight.
It's a beautiful silhouette. Last but not least, we have Akilah Robinson. Akilah is the Vice President of Creative Services at Warner Records. As a proud product of the MTV generation, Akilah spends her days working on the business of music, bringing songs to life through the art of music videos and visual content. She works closely with artists and management teams to craft music videos, online visual content, live concert films, and other visual marketing tools. And while at Warner, she's worked with Wale, DBSN, Roy Woods, Mac Miller, and Sweetie, just to name a few. Akilah, appreciate your time this afternoon.
Thanks for having me, everybody.
So we have a panel full of super dope women, and I just want to go ahead and dive right in. I gave a brief introduction of all of you, but I want to give each of you the opportunity to kind of give a little more insight on your background. So if you don't mind, please share with us a little more about your current position and maybe some background into how you got into the space that you're currently in. So Akilah, let's go ahead and start with you.
Okay, great. Hey, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever we are in the world. Yeah, I mean, I guess in the industry, my role is more commonly seen as a video commissioner, which means we work with, the talent, being the artists, as well as their management team and any creative directors on their team to craft, first and foremost, music videos. But in this, continuously digital world, we do things for social content. So I do also work closely with we call it our fan engagement team, which works on socials, websites, and anything online. Obviously working with the marketing team to kind of help craft the brand for the artist, and working with the A&R team, getting the music, helping, getting the story from the A&R, from the artist, and figuring out how we want to really bring it all together visually through a music video, through a live concert. Through the pandemic, we did a whole lot of live at home with Tiny Desk and different late night shows. So it's been a really interesting navigation through these harder times in the world and figuring out how we can kind of creatively bring things to people while being in our homes, in our, wherever we are kind of stuck in the world.
Nice. Cherise, please share with us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So, I started out as a journalist. I feel like my role has kind of turned into more of like a digital video journalist type of thing. But yeah, I kind of got into journalism by accident a little bit. Me and my sister, we had like a website. We started together, and then um, she met Justin Hunt, who was like the editor in chief of Hip Hop DX at the time, and I just kind of like hit him up to see if they had any opportunities. So they had like an internship there, so I just started interning for them, and then I ended up just freelancing, and then I ended up getting hired and started doing like their social media and stuff like that. And at the same time, I also started working for Uprock, so I was doing like social media for both of them at one point, and then at Uprocks, there was like a lot more opportunity for me to like get more involved with creating video content and getting a lot more creative. So I know I had a conversation with Jared, who's like the co-founder of Uprocks. He really loves my taste, so he wanted me to kind of help curate Uprock sessions. So it's our live performance series. So I kind of help create the sound with that, along with another curator. His name is Adam. So he has this really cool warehouse event in LA called Ham on Everything. So I feel like a lot of like up and coming artists before the pandemic kind of got their start with him. So he has really unique taste. So our tastes come together. We have a really cool show, and then also all the other content that we create there as well. So like you mentioned, How I Blew Up, where I essentially focus like on one song that the artist blew up on that everyone knows them for, and then just kind of like hone in on like what was going on during that time period, what's next for them. So it's one of my favorites to do. We also have like React Like You Know, which I love, which we show them like old school music videos and get them to react to that. And then we also have like a lot of other cool stuff we're working on as well, just kind of always trying to get like on the pulse of the technology when it comes to like short form content. We're going to be starting to do a lot more of that. So just kind of thinking quickly how we all like consume things very, very fast, and just thinking of how to create content like that. So that's kind of where I am right now. So journalist, yes, but kind of like it's kind of evolving a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. That's the industry that we in. How I Blew Up is really easy. I went down like a rabbit hole watching some of those episodes, so I really enjoyed it. Paula, please share with us just a little bit about your amazing background and kind of what you're doing today.
Well, I started as a scout in Dallas, Texas, and rose up through the ranks of working for a couple of different major labels. I worked for Universal for a couple of years, and then they created a position and moved me out to LA. Pardon me, 20 years ago, Jeff Harleston, who is still a very important executive in the music industry and still at Universal created that position for me, moved me to LA, and I became the first female A&R research executive in the industry while in that position. Then I moved over to Warner's for 5 years and worked at one label, and then was moved into a group role to develop a new platform that would roll out globally. And then after I left Warner's, I started to go back into a very creative startup kind of visionary role, and wanted to create more and more things that would innovate A&R and provide more opportunities, especially for young women that were like me, that wanted to do A&R, wanted to be in creative executive roles in the music industry. So I created a few different programs that actually are part of my 8th startup that I'm working on right now. It's still in its infancy, but in this startup, we have programs that train people to do A&R scouting and learn how to do research and learn a lot about the different aspects of the industry where those skill sets can fit in. And then we also just launched a sister program to that, which is an A&R marketing internship. It's a paid program. We select rock star social media candidates to come in and work with us and learn how to execute different types of campaigns and build real world experiences with my clients, and also work with all the different aspects of a startup, of a creative startup. And then I also just, in the midst of all that, I wrote a book and I just became a published author over the weekend, and it's going to be available. Limited edition is available from me, so signed by myself and the artist that did the cover art, and they're all numbered, but then available for purchase on Amazon tomorrow.
Nice. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Millie, please just give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Right. Well, it's a hard act to follow. I'm the new kid on the block. I just started producing VITV in 2020 when the show was created. And so I have been, for the past 2 years, figuring out everything just kind of like on my own, from the ground up, from, the gutter. Everything's been like self-funded. And so we've really just been on the grind with this show. And the show is basically a visual mixtape. It's a music platform. We use beats from the 90s, early 2000s, and have different hip hop, R&B, poetry, just different types of musical or creative artists on the show. And they do an original piece over the 90s beats, and we put it together in post-production, and it comes out as a wonderful YouTube show. So everyone check it out. We'll have it in the chat. And so that's basically where I'm at. Prior to doing this, my background is in finance and real estate. So this is a complete, 180 from what I was doing before. So,
Nice. Glad to have you here. And last but certainly not least, Miss Kate, please give us a little background on your journey and how you got to where you're at.
Yeah, so cannabis has always played a pretty meaningful role in my life. Grew up in Jersey. Cannabis was always around me. Brother got arrested and expelled from high school for weed. Went out to LA to attend university, and that was the first time personally I lived in a state that had a legal cannabis program. It was only medically legal at the time, but as someone who did enjoy partaking with this plant, it was the first time I was introduced to a number of different form factors and dosages, and just went deep on all things weed, to the point where I worked as a bud tender in 2007, 2008 while attending college. Graduated, decided it was too early to devote my entire career to cannabis, but worked in the entertainment industry for over a decade. Pre-Miss Grass, worked for Lorne Michaels at his company called Broadway Video. He's the producer and creator of number of different things, but probably most known for Saturday Night Live. And I handled all brand partnerships for all of the IP, television, film, and digital IP that he owned, while Miss Grass was somewhat of a little side hustle that was growing slowly and slowly and slowly, to the point that decided, as more states were becoming recreationally legal, would decide to pursue it full time. And we launched it back in January of 2018, really leading with an educational and community platform to educate consumers on all things weed, as you mentioned before. And then we launched a product line 18 months ago, not just CBD, which you mentioned, but we also have THC products available in 3 states to date: California, Nevada, and we just launched in Massachusetts last week.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice. So a couple of you guys touched on it a little bit, but I want to talk about what kind of inspired you to get into the career that you're currently in. And when you decided that this was the space that you wanted to be in, what were, if any, some of the goals and aspirations that you initially set for yourself? Paula, you kind of touched on it initially, so I'll start with you, just in wanting to kind of create that space for young girls who wanted to do something that was a little outside of the box, but that you kind of knew a little bit about. Can you speak more towards that a little bit, please?
Sure. At the time of me trying to get an A&R job, I think I knew maybe of 1 or 2 female A&R executives, a small handful at the most, globally. And so it was a big dream, a big hope, that took 10 years for me to get that job. And then when I got the job, I had no idea what was expected of me. And there was no one training me. And there was no one actually paying attention to me. So I didn't know if I was doing it right or not. And when I finally became self-taught and figured out my path to get the attention and keep that job, which was also very hard to keep, and got the role and moved out to LA, I was like, I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. It was hard and unnecessary. And so that's when I created my first Scout training program and reached out to all the young women I knew that wanted to do A&R and said, come be on my scouting team and let's help you get jobs. And that's how it started for me.
Nice. Akilah, can you share a little bit about kind of what inspired you to get into your career, and if there were any goals or aspirations that you set when you first started?
Yeah, it's funny that as much as I loved MTV and watching music videos, and I think I caught like the final wave of this MTV kind of surge in the mid 2000s, and I just loved music, and I knew I couldn't sing, I couldn't rap, and I can't play an instrument. So what can I do? I was like, can't play an instrument. I couldn't commit. Like, I took the lessons for a few things, but I just couldn't commit to being an artist, in front of camera. But looking at things like behind the music and making the video and seeing all of these people that kind of make this wheel turn really interested me. Almost more than the music. It was kind of like discovering the business of music was really, really intriguing to me. And so in high school, I kind of decided like I have to be a part of this. And I had no idea what that meant at the time. And so I went for what was most forefront, which was either like marketing or artist management, and figured I would just figure it out from there. And my first job, I was a temp at Sony Music, and they had like an overarching creative department at the time. And, my first boss's assistant was leaving and they needed someone in the interim, and it was a 6-week position. And 6 months later, I was still there and got offered, full time. And I had no idea that a creative department existed within a label. I just thought that music videos just happened because that's what was needed. And, to kind of see behind the lens of like what goes on and the conversations that happen and the business aspect of it, of what are you going to spend it on, how much, and all of these different things that are a part of this music business, which is just as important as the creative, because you need to get it to the people. And it was just kind of falling into that initially, and deciding to stick with it full on was sort of because it gave me a little bit of a window into everything. So, you know, I was able to work with head of marketing departments and marketing directors and figure out what it is to market music. You know, I could work with the digital team. I watched from when I was interning to now where, you know, there's one guy who was the digital department and was just really excited about this thing called YouTube when I started almost like 15 years ago. And now to know that, you know, a digital department is like on par with a marketing department because we all work in synergy together. And so to kind of grow up as this industry was changing was really, really interesting to see it from the seat of how do we visualize music for people. And then, you know, from when I started and MTV was kind of on the outskirts, it was sort of like, what do we do with this? And then watching the internet and social and YouTube and, you know, even platforms like Uprocks, you know, we work with you all a lot. And just to see all these different places and spaces to fill with content, you know, gave it this new wave after it was sort of like, okay, music videos have no place to go. What do we do? Then it was, what do we do on social media? And okay, we only have 15 seconds or we only have a minute, and just kind of being met with these creative challenges as, you know, just the entertainment industry has grown has been really cool to kind of see it from this seat and creatively problem solve with super creative artists and super like engaged artists, and working with, you know, Alicia Keys when I was at RCA and kind of watching her figure out the next wave of her career, to then coming and working with like a Roy Woods in Division and seeing him a product of this online generation and really just like figuring out what does this all mean visually. Is it short form? Is it long form? Is it an official video? Is it a lyric video? Is it a visualizer? And kind of like, what can we do to fill all these holes to, you know, to keep people engaged, to keep, you know, people excited about music. And, you know, I thought I was going to kind of transition into more of a marketing spin on this job. But when I got more into, you know, learning about filmmaking and just that general knowledge of filmmaking and editing and how cool that was, and then to mesh it with music, because I've always loved movies and I've always loved TV. So it's kind of like my two worlds collided by accident to kind of land me in this space to be able to always have creative film conversations, creative music conversations, and then see the best place where the two meet.
That's amazing. And that's really cool that you kind of discovered that for yourself at such a young age and like kind of stayed with it. I mean, what I wanted to be in high school is absolutely not necessarily what I am now. You know, it's kind of a little different. So that it's very interesting to see how you've stuck with it. And like you said, how you've been able to kind of grow with the growth of the industry. And that's
it's kind of one of like the most interesting things about entertainment. It is always growing and changing. So you are always kind of finding your spot, similar to like what you were talking about, Paula, where it's like, okay, I'm here, I've accomplished this, but there's never really this like, now what? Because there's always something either in technology or in music. The style of music could change, and that can completely change the trajectory of your career. So it's a really interesting space to be in.
Yeah. For sure.
It's never a dull moment.
Ever.
Yeah. We'll touch on that a little more later. Cherise, please share with us what inspired you to kind of get into writing initially, because I know that's initially what you said you and your sister kind of had going on.
Well, I went to school for PR, so that was like my original plan. PR requires a certain, you know, creative writing ability, right? So that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to tell stories and stuff like that. So I felt like PR would be a cool place to do that, you know, maybe work in music, wherever the case might be. My place ended up being fashion. So I started out doing that. So really, honestly, the journalism thing really wasn't even in the plans at all. It like the website that we created was really just for fun. Like it was a fashion meets music website. Like music's always been part of my life. I know I've always been that coworker that's always talking about music. I know for a fact I was, like I know, like when I was working at the Apple store, like I know I put people onto Janae before she was popping. Like I know they remember me. Like I know they do. Like Like there's just, and The Weeknd, like, and there's like, and Drake. I feel like there's just so many people. I've always been that person that's like always been talking about music. So like the fashion part, it's like, oh, I like clothes, like whatever. I've always watched Project Runway. I can't design it, but like looking at them, I know what looks good together, you know? So I just felt like fashion PR made sense, writing, fashion, whatever. So that was it. And then we had the website, and that way I could merge my two loves together. So I was like basically documenting everything that everybody was wearing during the time. So this is like actually during the time where it was like off-white. It was like, you know, all like the streetwear brands were very popular in that 2016, 2017. Very A$AP Rocky like era, Tumblr-ish. The website design was all like that. We did some photo shoots too. Like it was like, I don't know, I was very bold during this time. Like I was like, yeah, this person, and we were getting them. And because of my background in the fashion PR, I knew how to go to showrooms and pull clothes for free and like get like different looks. I knew how to like get stylists and photographer. Like I knew how to put a shoot together. So we put shoots together and we did interviews and we did an on-camera interview, and it was just kind of like our own little website. It was just for fun. Like it was legitimate just for fun. And then also I found out, you can get paid for this. So
after all the work.
So that's when it was like, asking, Justin for that opportunity, and he gave it to me. And then, it just snowballed into like me working for them, and we were just going out there and making stuff happen. So, I mean, I was just writing news articles and, editorials, doing it all pretty much. And then also I was doing video content for them, on camera, writing scripts and stuff like that. Really just like learning a lot. And I don't know. It just kind of like fell into that. It really wasn't ever a goal, but I feel like what I probably was doing was just like seeing what I was good at and also what was making me money, and just going that way. And I don't have any regrets. Like I love the path I took to get here, from my fashion PR experience. I also did like celebrity PR too, like for like actors and actresses at like a mid-level PR firm. So just like my experience there, and then just how I fell into like where now I feel like how, we're talking about the entertainment industry. It's always ever evolving. Everybody's talking about, the future of journalism and stuff like that. It's just like, I've found myself now I'm telling stories visually instead of, I'm still writing on the .com, but I'm finding a lot of my storytelling is coming through like how I grew up, or the Who Is doc, or just like even the short form content. I'm having to tell stories through like smaller videos, which I'm cool with. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of my path and how I got here. And yeah, I don't know. It's always weird explaining that to people, because I feel like a lot of people make it their goal, and then they ask me, how did you? And I just really have no answers. Like I can't tell you. Like I literally
I really love that, and I truly do relate to the part where you're talking about like putting people on certain like artists. I feel the same way. I think that I've introduced a lot of people to certain artists, and I think that that's kind of, back then I didn't realize it, but prepping me for the position that I'm in now, because what do I do now all day is try and find like new music, and I love it. And something that I didn't realize in like curating. Back then I used to make mixtape, CDs for all my friends at school, and I was very particular about what order they were in because I wanted this certain vibe. So it's just interesting how the things that we do when we're younger that we just love, right, that we're just passionate about, it's really cool when we're able to kind of connect those dots later in life and make it work. And like you said, make money, because that is very important. So I love that. Millie, I'm very interested to hear about how this all came, because I've seen you in action. I've seen you at work, and I think to have this have started back in 2020, and for you to already be like an executive producer of that, I mean, it just speaks volumes to how hard you work. So I'm very interested to hear and just kind of how this came to fruition for you, coming from the background that you did, and what, if any, were some of the goals that you set when you first came on this journey.
Well, that's exactly what it is for me, is a journey. And I feel like I'm just starting it. But my passion has been really the main thing that's been driving me. I've always loved music, and like Akilah was saying, like I can't sing. I'm not a rapper. I don't really like being in front of the camera. Even right now, I'm like, I don't like being in front of the camera. But behind the camera, that's like my happy place. I like being, backstage. I like to be the one that's like in charge and kind of telling everybody what to do. So, and like my background in real estate, I worked for a very long time doing logistics, and so I'm a logistical person, and so for me, it was like taking the idea and getting it from our heads to onto the screen. You know what I'm saying? To something that we can see, and so that whole process, it just kind of came natural to me to know what needed to be done. Because that's just the way my brain works. I'm like, what are all the little micro steps we need to take along the way to make sure we get everything done. And it's definitely been hard. It has been a learning process so much, but like it's a real journey. It's definitely a real journey. So
Cool. And Kate, quickly, if you don't mind, to share with us just kind of how you spoke to it a little bit regarding your brother, but.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those things that, like, looking back, it makes so much sense that now it feels like I'm devoting my life to weed, but it's always been a pretty meaningful, it had a pretty meaningful role in my life. When I was working, though, as a bud tender back in 2007, 2008 in Cali, that's, I would say, like the moment that I planted the first small seed, pun intended, for Miss Grass. I bought the URL back in 2008 when I was working as a bud tender, because at that time, so many people would come into the dispensary, and even myself, that just didn't relate to the way cannabis was portrayed in pop culture at the time. And even the products that we were selling at the dispensary, it visually, it wasn't something that I was like proud to leave on our coffee table. It didn't feel there was a brand or a platform that authentically represented how myself and so many people in my life were consuming this plant. And there was definitely nothing at the time that was accessible around educational material around weed. So even if you wanted to be good at weed and like know, what are terpenes and what's the right dose for me, and when I take an edible, why does that interact me differently than when I smoke a joint? Like, there was nothing like that even existed at that time. So that's really what planted the seed for Miss Grass. Bought the URL back then, missgrass.com, which honestly wasn't that meaningful because I was like a GoDaddy hoarder. I would have like a million ideas and have like 30 GoDaddy URLs. But this one, decade later, did finally come to fruition. So that was what was the inspiration behind it.
Nice. So we've talked a little bit about like where you guys are and the inspiration and the goals. I want to tap in a little bit into like the struggle of it all, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a very tough industry. There's a lot of no's before you get any yeses sometimes. And I feel as though in being a woman, I think there's challenges beyond just the yeses and nos. So if you guys don't mind, can you share an obstacle that you had to overcome either in your current role or just as you matriculated into the role that you're in right now? And Kate, we can actually start with you on this one. Flip it back around.
Yeah, I would say that there's so many learning curves and obstacles that I've faced and honestly continue to face. I think particular being a female leader in a very male-dominated space, which sadly I know is pretty common across all industries at this point, that there's money, like the capitalist culture and market is really male and white male dominated. So I think anywhere that there's an opportunity from a financial opportunity, I think sadly that's what the makeup of the leadership looks like. And I think that does bring with it its own obstacles. When we had to raise our first round of capital, it was extremely difficult to do so because I was not only pitching to investors that didn't look like me, so couldn't necessarily relate to me, but I was also pitching a concept that was catering to a demographic that they also were not. So it was also another kind of obstacle to convince them to invest in this concept, and it, you know, would return the types of returns that they were looking for.
Nice. Millie, how about you? Has there been any obstacles, yes, that you felt like that you faced being, you know, kind of new in this industry, and how have you been able to overcome those?
The biggest obstacle is definitely like financing things and just coming up with the budget to pay for everything. And the only way to really overcome that was just work harder and find the money some kind of way, right? But one obstacle that I feel like is kind of bigger than that would just be like trusting myself and my power in my position. That's something that I've been working on because I've never been in this position before. You know, I'm new. So not trusting myself and being able to say, like, I know what I'm doing. I know, you know, how to do this. I can do this. I'm capable. This is possible, you know, and just continuing to believe in myself and trust myself and find my power and my voice. That's something that's like an everyday thing for me. You know what I'm saying? Outside of like the obvious everyone has, you know, issues with. So.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to, I mean, it's funny because you say that, and it's like something that I feel like a lot of women struggle with internally. And on the flip side, I think that sometimes guys are very so like dive in. Doesn't matter if I make a mistake, we'll fix it when we get around to it. Like very like, you know, and as women, we're very more strategical and like kind of don't want to make those mistakes. Like we want everything to be right away because it's like the leash is shorter. Like the you need to make fewer mistakes because you're a woman, and it sucks that like we have that like that consciousness in our head. But it's good that to see like your confidence and how you're overcoming that, and especially just starting out. So that's really dope. Akilah, obstacles. I know you got some, girl.
I mean, the world is a boys' club, so it's kind of like trying to navigate that. And I would say the biggest obstacle was finding my voice, you know, as I walked into different rooms, from, you know, walking on set to walking into a conference room, and finding that trust in myself, that what I'm saying is, you know, I believe it and it's right and it's something that I want to stand behind. Like you were just saying, Brittany, like, you know, men kind of have that innate bravado about them, or that innate, like, yes, of course, this is right. This is what's going to happen. And so, you know, trying to navigate that, like I said, from set and dealing with directors who, you know, tended to be male most of the time, and, you know, coming in there, and I was usually like one of the younger people there. So again, like there was that obstacle, you know, being a Black woman. It was sort of like a lot of these kind of things that inherently made me want to make myself smaller. So finding that way to just like stand on my own 2 feet, you know, use the support system. I will say one of the greatest gifts that I've had in this industry was, you know, working for women right out of the gate. Like my first 2 bosses, who were also heads of department, were women. And, you know, I know that they blazed a lot of trails and they had to fight a lot of battles that I didn't have to fight because of the positions that they were standing in, that it gave me that confidence to even find my voice, to even say, like, to have that example. You know, I know we talk about representation a lot, and it comes in many forms where you can see that example of someone who looks like you, or, you know, who relates to you, who is doing what you want to do. And having that example is priceless. To see somebody, you know, stand on their own 2 feet, to see somebody go toe to toe with someone who's supposed to be like, you know, bigger and badder, and come out victorious, is really, really great. And is a really like I think having that example brought me through it a little bit faster, or at least like I had someone to catch me when I fell who
Yeah.
understood why I was falling or why I was kind of tripping and could kind of not only catch me and help me, but give me the lesson and give me the tools to do better next time and understand that it's okay. And we do make mistakes and everybody makes mistakes, you know, no matter who you are, how you identify, nobody's perfect. And so, you know, I think to your point, Millie, of like coming in the room, be like, how do you do it? You figure it out. But to have a support system that has figured it out or has figured part of it out and maybe like a younger, fresher take or just a different take of somebody who hasn't gone through the different obstacles before, you know, could come in and have a different challenge, but again, have someone there that helps you navigate through those tricky times. But definitely finding my voice and really like standing firm in who I am and how I want to represent myself and, you know, how I want my work to represent me was one of the biggest challenges. And, you know, not that it's overcome, but, you know, that's something that I still deal with, but I think is one of the things that I think like the most proudest to have, to be able to look back and see the difference
Yeah.
from then to now.
You're aware now. You're more
Absolutely.
aware of how to maneuver and like how to get things done, and that comes with growth. So it's dope. Cherise, is there anything that any obstacle that you feel as though you've had to overcome?
Yeah, of course. I would say, I feel like for me, it's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like dealing with coming into a situation and trying to like prove yourself. I don't know what there's like a one catch-all word for that, but or just knowing your self-worth or knowing your worth, knowing the value that you bring to a situation. I feel like that has been an obstacle for me that I am overcoming currently.
Nice.
I would say that, you know, for me, a lot of things come very naturally for me. So I don't see it as like a big deal. Whereas some other people might find it impressive. And I'm just impressed that you're impressed. Like, oh, you think this is, you know, like, so, but then after a while you realize like, oh, there's monetary value associated with things I'm like naturally good at. And for me, it's not only recognizing it, but like owning it and knowing that like I'm worth more than I think I am. And there are people that will know and see that you don't know your worth and will 100% take advantage of you. So I've had that happen to me before. And now I'm trying to be okay with understanding that I have value. I say it like that because, you know, society teaches you to be humble and not to like, you know, brag.
Right.
Or be
But you
proud.
still gotta be able to set your price, and like you said, know your worth and know your value.
Yeah. So it's just having that mental struggle and overcoming that part, and then just being confident and knowing like this is what it is. So yeah, I would say that is an obstacle that I am journeying through right now.
Yeah, for sure. Paula, has there been? I'm sure there's been many, but one that stands out to you that you
Yeah,
want
I
to
was
touch?
actually just going to give you kind of a general answer because the list is long.
Yeah.
The list is long. But I'd like to echo all these wonderful women. What they all said is true for me too. And I really kind of sum it up to protecting my creative house, which is again kind of, oh, sorry, the pop-up just keeps coming up. I don't know how to stop it. Protecting my creative house, which is all inclusive of my creative vision and not letting someone else make me second guess what I'm attempting to do or what I'm putting out into the world. And also all the way down to the funding issues and owning my intellectual property and not letting someone take any part of that away from me has been a huge obstacle that, you know, I have lost some of the things that that I created to, you know, previous investors, that I just didn't know how to protect my creative house when I went into those deals. And I think that that's been again and again repeated obstacles, just in different forms, that all kind of try to impede or challenge my ownership of my creative house. And so that's something that I've really tried to focus on, especially in the last couple of years that I've currently self-funded and not taken outside investment for the first time.
Nice. Hell yeah. That's dope. Congrats to you on that. That's really cool. Okay, cool. So I want to touch on something, and I feel like we're kind of, for the most part, familiar with the number disparities as it relates to like artistry and the creative side, on the side of the mic, right? So out of all the performers, very male dominated. 12.6% of songwriters are women, less than 3% are producers, like super uneven. But on the other side, as it relates to like the business side, the inequities are still there. And it's very interesting to me because when I used to intern or like be like at an entry level at a company, I felt like I always saw like a ton of women, right? But then as you move up the ladder into those mid-level and senior level positions, the women really drop off and or are non-existent. And so my first question regarding this is kind of, why do you think that is? Why is there a lack of women in these mid and senior level spaces? And then my next question to follow that up, I would love to hear your insight on what you think it takes to kind of remain in this industry and have longevity in this industry. And I would really love to hear from Paula and Akilah first, just because I know you guys have been on this side for quite some time. So if either of you guys want to kick it off, I would love to.
I have a quick response to that.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest problems that we face as women getting into mid to senior level roles is not standing up for ourselves, you know. And the bigger part of that for me, what happened to me is I expected that my work would speak for itself. And I did some really cool things. So why would I get overlooked, you know, but from someone who was doing mediocre work? But that's I think a very female
mindset.
Yeah, or just feeling like you should notice what I'm doing. You should recognize how hard my work ethic is and how much I'm producing. But it takes more than that. And I think it's happened to a lot of really great young women. And I'm hoping to change that. My entire team is female, and all I do is try to prepare them and empower them for those moments where they have to say, I deserve that. I deserve that role, and I want to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's absolutely right. It's just I don't know if we're taught not to ask or if that's what we pick up, you know, as we grow up. And like I was saying before, like you kind of make yourself small and like, well, I'm working and I'm producing and I'm giving my part. So sometimes somebody's going to recognize me or somebody's going to give me the recognition that I deserve. Or when we do ask, we don't ask for enough because we never would even imagine what is being made on the other side. You know, if we talked about compensation or even, you know, titles and everything, it's just sort of, you just kind of go along with what you assume is going to happen. And I think, you know, that's a great point, Paula, is, you know, we have to learn how to ask, learn when to ask. And, you know, sometimes it's not about asking. You know, you go out and you start your own and you say, well, I've been producing so much here for you, for this company who doesn't want to recognize. I'm going to take these talents and build my own, you know, whatever that company is or whatever that outlet is, because sometimes it's not going to be given to you. So you do have to go out and prove yourself. And then you find the same people knocking on your door 5 or 6 years later, like, oh, hey, that thing you built, we need that over here. So, you know, it's sometimes it's the long road for sure. You know, I am seeing in this newer generation and like young women that I work with that are asking and are, you know, aren't as quiet about what it is they're looking for, which I love to see, you know, and, you know, I love to see people, I love to see women working together and empowering each other and, you know, looking to hire more women in senior roles or, you know, leading into going into leadership development programs if we're talking about, you know, the corporate side, but even programs where they are focusing on finding female engineers, finding female producers, you know, highlighting female songwriters, and just like understanding, especially in our industry, art is art, and if you
Yeah.
create great art, you should be compensated for it. And on the business side, if you are really great at doing what you do and facilitating and monetizing that art, you should be compensated for it. And just
Absolutely.
kind of going about it that way and understanding and, you know, entering this world as all of these different industries are talking about this same thing, that tells us something right there, that it's just kind of, it's not a entertainment problem, it's a problem in how, you know, corporate is built and what are we going to do there and how companies structure themselves, because everybody kind of goes off of a template. So if the template
Right.
is like, well, this is the ceiling for women, then that's what people are going to do. So it's going to take people like the people on this call, and I hope the people watching it, who will break through those ceilings and decide to be different. And it will be risky and it will be scary, but, you know, one thing that I've learned is always trust women. So, you know, I'm saying that there's a woman at the lead, because like those, even if it's not titled as like a senior level or even mid-senior level position, like I find in leadership that is working well, it's usually a woman somewhere driving that ship. And so I just hope that that gets highlighted more and will turn into just more of the norm of when you look for talent, you look for talent, and it's not based on what you think you should be looking for.
Yeah, I love that. Kate, is that pretty relevant on your side as well?
Yeah, damn right. It definitely is. And I would say, you know, I'm hoping that things are also shifting, because I think with new generations entering the workforce too, we're valuing different traits that we used to maybe not value or associate with leadership, like traits such as compassion and empathy and inclusion, and honestly all traits that like are like centered from the feminine divine trait. Like they are like feminine characteristics, not to say that men cannot carry those characteristics as well, but I think with that shift in just overall culture, I do hope that that will also shift the makeup of leaders that we are used to seeing.
Yeah, for sure. So we've just touched on a little bit about knowing your worth, right, and negotiating. I want to talk about a little bit about money, because we're aware that there's a lack of women in these spaces, and we're also aware that women make significantly less than our male counterparts. How do you go into the workspace and ensure that you're getting paid what you should be getting paid? Like, how do you ask for your worth? And I think this is something that I struggle with, and that I kind of don't really know the answer to myself. But like, how do you demand, like Cherise talked about it earlier, you know your value, you know your work. How do you then properly go in and ask for that? And this is kind of a free for all if whoever wants to hop in.
Well, I have one answer for people that are in the music industry, especially young women. Build relationships with entertainment attorneys and get a good lawyer. Period.
Exactly what I was going to say. Period. It's like, but I mean, and it's something that I learned recently, you know, and and it's tears, you know. I think a lawyer, if anyone's contracting you to do anything, get a lawyer. So that includes employee contracts. And, you know, you should know what you want, and it's a way easier conversation to have with someone who's already on your side and you're paying to go fight for. And so it doesn't make it that awkward conversation with your boss or that awkward conversation with HR or whoever it may be. It's, you know, it's how it should be done. And it's how people have done it forever, but it just feels like, oh, it's not for me. That's for like the CEO, and that's for, you know, an SVP. But it's like, no, as soon as somebody puts a piece of paper in front of you that is outlining what they expect from you, you have the right to ask for the same and say, well, this is what I expect from this company, and this is what I'm looking for, and that's what negotiation is. I think if you're not at the point for a lawyer, then, you know, to your point of building relationships, talk to your peers. You know, I know a lot of people don't discuss what they make, but, you know, you could ask, maybe have a friend in HR who might work at another label or another company, or even just in HR in general, just kind of ask these questions, or ask who you can ask, how do I find out this information? So if it's not, you know, if you're not negotiating employee that requires a lawyer, and like if you're going into contract, then at least having the information of like a company of this size, what's the typical salary for anybody at, you know, X level. That way, you know, you take race out of it, you take sex out of it, and you just make it about this job that needs to be filled, what is usually paid for it, and take it from there. I think, you know, it needs to be more of a fact-based conversation than what it typically is, where it is somebody trying to be like, well, you know, you've only been here for this long, and oh, you know, like as soon as they're trying to make excuses for wanting to pay you, then I think you need to get somebody on your side who can give you some solid advice.
I love that.
I think there are two more reasons to really build those relationships with attorneys. One is all the powerful attorneys are more powerful than you think they actually are. They're the ones making the deals with the CEOs, with all the high-level business affairs people. They have those relationships that they can walk in and say, hey, let's talk about so-and-so. And they have the leverage to do that, but they also know what everyone makes from the top to the bottom. They know it all. So those are other reasons why attorneys are your friends.
And absolutely, that's really good. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm like a glass door. You know what I'm saying? Like go on Glassdoor. But all those salaries could be edited, right? They could be, because that's how I used to do my research. It's like, let me go on Glassdoor. Let me see what this company is offering. So then I know at least if they do offer me something, that this is what I should at least be asking for. That's how I used to do it. And now I think it is more so talking amongst friends. You know, I think that's kind of the space that I have most recently been in. But definitely taking this, talking to an attorney moving forward, that's the move. Because like you said, they know everyone's salary.
Yeah, and when you're just like at junior level, you know, entry level to junior level, they'll take a coffee or a dinner. You know what I mean? To chit chat with you. They're not going to charge you a fee just to build a relationship.
Yeah. No, for sure. Cool. So I wanted to touch on something that you're all obviously in approval of, because you wouldn't be here speaking on this panel if you weren't. But the importance and value of helping other women. So what are your thoughts on this? Is this something that you feel as though we as women are doing a good job of right now, of uplifting each other and pulling each other up? Or do you feel as though in some way there's still some competition? You know what I'm saying? I think that sometimes people innately are competitive with each other. Everyone wants that top spot. But the reality is there isn't a ton of us in these spaces anyways. So are we doing enough to help each other as women? And if not, what are some ways that we can improve on this, and some things that we should be looking out for if our sister is lending their hand out and kind of reaching down to give us a helping hand?
I think, you know, it starts with separating competition and excelling, and not looking at someone who's standing next to you excelling as your competition. Like, that should be your peer. And I think, speaking for myself, like the value of women that I work with is just invaluable. I remember literally when I walked into J Records the first time, and I walked down the main hallway, and it was all women, and mainly Black women. And I was like, oh my God, this can happen for me. You know, and just that image alone changed my entire trajectory, because it's like, you know, you just kind of feel safe. And so I feel like the more, and I'm going to say, like, I don't really have any experiences where I felt like I was like preyed upon by another woman in the industry or trying to like be taken out by any of that. Like I feel, and not to say that it doesn't happen, but it's just like I feel like we're in a season of uplifting because the ones that have come and where it was only one or two in the entire label or the entire, you know, whatever, that to look around a conference table and see 5, 6, 10, 15 women who are like impacting whatever it is you're talking about is an amazing thing to see. And also I think with a company, like if it's succeeding, it's succeeding. So if you're a part of bringing up someone else who's going to be great while you're there or after you leave, then you know that's a legacy you leave behind. And I think that it's important, and it's something that I know I think about when, you know, I talk to young people or I just talk to other people that I work with. And, you know, if someone's having a bad day and just kind of being there, being an ear, or if I'm having a bad day, knowing that I can have somebody to be an ear. Because like we were saying earlier, like it's never a dull moment. We're in high stress, high promote, high producing kind of situations. So, you know, things are going to happen. But I think just in general, having a support system, and especially a support system that you can identify with, is an invaluable thing to have in any working situation, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think that my experience has definitely been like that too. Everyone that I've worked with or in my circles that are women have actually been extremely collaborative and supportive. And I think we're all on the like carrying ourselves with this like abundance mindset that there's not like a scarcity of opportunities. Like there are many opportunities, and like, you know, we can all win. And if anything, operating with the idea that like we all win when we all lift each other up. So I think that's what I would say is just like continue to operate with that abundance mindset. And I think we've seen it with men, you know, in taking each other out for golf or like whatever to strike deals. But, you know, I think the more that we can support each other, the more that we all win.
Well, I agree. And I will say this. I am a woman's woman, and I am a ride or die, and it shows in everything I do. But I want to also say the one piece of advice I wish I'd gotten before I got my first job was be prepared to be betrayed. Because in this industry, woman's woman or not, there's that one or those 5 that you're going to encounter throughout your career. It will happen to each and every one of us. It's happened to me.
Keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes on the prize.
Always.
All right, so sorry, Cherise.
I said definitely keep your head on a swivel.
On a swivel, stay with it. So we've discussed the struggles, and the ways that we're going to grow and uplift. I want to talk about the joys and the fun that we find in this space, because the reality of it is, you know, this is hard. It's hard, but there's a lot of like fun that comes out of it too. And I feel like we wouldn't wake up daily and choose to kind of do this and stay in this if we didn't find that joy. So kind of what keeps you motivated in coming back? And Millie, we can start with you for this one. What keeps you motivated in coming back to just being at VITV and working with the artists and producers you work with?
Well, and one thing just I wanted to say from the last question also was shout out to all the VITV ladies. If you're watching,
yes.
They're awesome. I love working with them, but that's part of the joys is like working with the artists. I just have such a passion for music and hip hop, and I just, you know, have encountered so many people, especially living here in LA, that are, you know, trying to make it, and to be able to now provide this platform for people to have their, you know, their time to shine, and you know, just helping people build their careers. That to me is so satisfying, and like it's just, it gives me a creative outlet, and it gives me a space to be able to just do what I really love, and like I said, and help people like in the best way that I can, and work with really awesome people and meet really awesome people. And you know, I just keep coming back because I just love it. I just really, really do. And I guess that's it.
That's fire, especially being like you're in school, you know, so you have that excuse that if you didn't want to
Yeah.
show up one day because you have X, Y, and Z for school, but the fact that you choose to kind of stay in that space, it does speak volumes and testaments to your love and your passion for music.
It's a
Cherise, what
balancing
about it? Absolutely. And that's on top of all the other things that you have going on. Cherise, what about you? What keeps you motivated in the space that you're in and kind of keeps you coming back daily?
The music artist, of course.
Yeah.
I really, really love music. So like a big part of my job is obviously highlighting up and coming artists. And I feel like I've been doing that for so long. Like I've been able to watch like artists that I've like seen from like SoundCloud be like #1 on Billboard charts, and like I get excited about like the new wave of artists that are coming out. So like I'm constantly always like digging into that bag. So for me, it's like if I'm able to like this new artist, I have to bring them to Up Rock sessions. I have to do How I Blew Up with them. Like I've been watching them. The song went #1. It's time. Like we got to do it. Like that's what keeps me motivated and going. Is literally the music. Like I don't have any other answer than that. But
that's perfect. I really relate with that. I really do. Being able to pick someone from SoundCloud or just one of those other platforms of someone who's not well known, and then watching them kind of take off and being like, yo, I was with him back when he had 50 followers over here, and now he has 50 million and a #1, and like that's the motivation right there. I 110% relate. It's fire. Kate, I know that I feel like I would love to hear kind of what keeps you going, because I feel like you had a long journey with this, with your, and kind of a weird beginning too, with like going back to your brother. You could have went in the completely other direction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I feel like I'm too far in at this point to turn around.
I mean, you've only created an entire company.
But no, I mean, I'm extremely passionate about what I'm doing. Of course, there's hard days where I'm like, fuck. But, you know, I'm never at the point where I'm even like contemplating giving up. It's, you know, so I'm passionate about cannabis. I'm passionate about what we're doing. I'm passionate about shifting the narrative around cannabis. I'm passionate about providing legal cannabis to and making it accessible to everyone who wants it. And I'm also passionate about business and making this extremely financial success for myself and everyone that's working at the company, which was something that honestly I had a lot of like shame admitting that I like wanted this to be a massive financial success and make a shit ton of money around it. That was something that, you know, early days, and it took a while to kind of admit that, and like I would never
be comfortable with
on a
that
panel.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to make a lot of money.
Hell yeah. That's dope. That money is a great motivator, and anyone who like it's not, I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna say you're lying. I'll just say I don't know. Paula, you've been in the game for years, and I do feel truly that one of your motivators is wholeheartedly helping the younger generations under you, especially women. I just from my previous conversations with you and just knowing the work that you've done in the industry, is there anything else? Because that in itself is just so much, and your passion and love for A&Ring and for young women shows. Is there anything else that motivates you to kind of keep doing what you're doing and to want to share your gift?
Yeah, listen, I'm going to be straight up about that too. There were so many times I didn't protect my creative house in a way that I didn't get the shine, or I didn't get the industry, anointment officially that I was the first one to do what I did, and that no one's done exactly what I've done. So that's my motivation. This company is going to be huge. I'm going to innovate again, and I'm going to break down all those walls and as many glass ceilings as I can for women while I'm doing it.
Hell yeah. I love it. Akilah, last but certainly not least, give me that motivation. What is it?
For me, I think it's the what's next. You know, like we said, there's never a dull moment. This industry is always evolving, and you know, I used to think that I wanted to work with like the biggest artists ever, which I do because like that's fun, but like the joy of watching an artist grow from like either on the cusp of like everybody knowing about them, or even coming from like, oh my God, you came in the office, they played this song, and then a year and a half later, everybody knows this song. It's like, man, I remember when you just
Yeah.
played it in the conference room and we knew, but we didn't know, but we knew. And to like see it all come to fruition. And you know, just speaking to the technology that's in creative now, and working with young female directors and young directors of color, and just like watching that pool of talent just grow and be recognized, and being able to be a catalyst. And just, you know, who knows, I'm like, oh, I know this is a little, you know, $20,000 job and it's a smaller video, but I think if you kill it, this could be great. And then watching that person kill it and then not being able to afford them in 6 months is like my greatest joy ever. And so I always joke with directors, it's like, oh man, after this one, I guess that's it. But it's just like, you know, because I remember being excited walking into the first label that I even interviewed for, because I just wanted to be a part of this, to still see that in people's eyes. Like, even to your point, Kate, it's like sometimes those days where it's like, okay, everyone, but like you still kind of bounce back from those moments. And then that is the time where like the new young artist comes in with all that light and energy, and it's like, okay, here we go again, but here we go again. And it's
Start it
just
back
fun.
up. Start it back
Yeah.
up.
You know, it's like it's hard work, but it's fun work, and it's rewarding. You know, it's rewarding to see somebody live off their passion, you know, and that's what I get to see on the artist side, and, you know, directors, producers, and, you know, creatives on the film side. So it's just fun, I guess, is the short answer.
Yeah. Nice. I could honestly sit here and talk to y'all all night, but we only have a few more questions. We're gonna wrap it up soon. I want to know, you guys have given really great advice, and I love kind of hearing like the ladder of how it kind of came from. So who are some of your mentors who you could speak about? Feel free to name drop any dope names you have, but who are some of your mentors, and what is some sound advice that they have given you that kind of has stuck with you throughout your career, if any? I'll let you think on it a little bit.
Well, I can go first. I can drop a few names. Well, first and foremost, Polly Anthony, rest in peace. Polly Anthony was the president of one of the record companies for a long time, and she passed away several years ago. But she really went out of her way for me, and it was an incredible experience. I actually did not take her job offer. I went to work for a man, but I will say she kept in touch with me, and she became a friend, which was fantastic. A fantastic experience to have such a powerful woman take a shine to me. And then the second one that really did something amazing for me, which is also in my book, is Sylvia Rome. She did something I would have never expected, and I will never ever forget the way that she showed me she had my back the first day that I went to work for her. So those two women really had an impact on showing me how to be a female leader in this industry.
That's dope. Millie, have you had anyone, any mentor that has kind of given you some sound advice that you carry with you?
So far, not yet really. In this industry, I'm still like meeting people and just, you know, trying to decipher what's good information from bad information to even determine what is good advice at this point. But
Yeah.
you know, definitely I would give my dad some props for has all the advice in the world for everything. And you know, one thing he's pounded into me from a young age is to think things through. And that's something that I definitely use regularly when I'm working, is trying to think of everything from A to Z, from beginning to end. Um, you know, just to keep myself on track and keep myself on point and make sure I don't miss anything or lose a beat. So I will say that he's been my my mentor, inspiration throughout my life, just, you know, giving me good advice and keeping me on point.
Love it. I love it. Cherise, what about you? Have you had a mentor or came across someone yet who has given you sound advice that you use? I think you're muted.
I was. Um, I would say that I can't recall any like sound advice per se, but I would say that um, some of the people that I felt like maybe saw something in me before I saw it would obviously be the editor in chief at Hip Hop DX, the former Justin Hunt. I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I first started, he was just like, I'm gonna give you the internship. Just when you come in, kill it. And I remember thinking I'm gonna do exactly that. And I feel like every once in a while I go back to that moment, and it kind of like motivates me. Like even now, it's been years later since that we had that first conversation. Just like remembering like where I started and where I came from, and that conversation we had. I would say him. I really haven't had any like mentors. Just like I said, people that believed in me and that kind of like. I feel like with the mentorship, like it's a known thing, right? But then there's people that you have that kind of like put you in position, right? So I would say maybe like Storm Baker. He is an author, very well known like hip hop author. He helped me out a lot, and I would also probably say Jarrett Meyer, the co-founder of Brox as well. He gives me a lot of really good advice as far as just being in the music industry as a whole. But I feel like that's pretty much it. And since I feel like I haven't had that much mentorship, especially from like other women, there's not that many of us anyways. And I feel like we're all just like trying to figure it out. I feel like where I'm at now, like I am under the Warner umbrella and I'm allowed to have like interns. So, I'm able to pay it forward a little bit, not even a little bit, a lot. Like I really just want to help bring in the new age of like digital content creators that love music as much as I do and love, to be on TikTok, love to be on social media. Because I feel like that is the new wave. So I feel like that's what I'm going to do now. And, they're young, they're in college. So like, I know I just want to be there for them throughout their journey. If they want me to be there, I'll always phone call, email away, so that's how I feel like I want to be, because I don't have that. And like I said, I'm still trying to figure it out, and I'm just passing what I know on to them. So
for sure. Dope. Akilah.
I actually had heard recently like a really great kind of explanation of how to like get mentors. And the person was saying that a mentor is really someone who can give you sound advice and answer questions. So technically, without anybody knowing, you can make anyone your mentor if you just ask really great questions of someone in experience that you're looking for. So, that's just a tip of, not feeling like you have to name someone as your mentor, but just like, hey, don't be afraid to ask the question. If someone's sitting in a seat that you want to sit in, ask, not maybe not how they got there, but like that's like open-ended, but like a good specific question of, or like, what school did you go to, or what did you study, or anything like that. I just feel like it really just opened up my mind of like how I approach mentorship and being mentored and looking to people who I would like to mentor me, and just say, oh, well, I don't have to ask them. I'll just ask the questions that I want to ask,
Yeah.
given the opportunity. And then, specifically for me, I would have to go back to probably my first two bosses at RCA, Sam Lecca, who was the head of creative. And I think she really taught me the value of experience. And, I know we talked earlier about how, women, we don't get valued for our experience, or, paid forward for what we do contribute. And one thing that I will say Sam always did is, like, as I learned something, or as I proved that I learned something, like, she was really great about expanding on that. And, if it was setting up a shoot and this is how you do it. And once it was like, okay, wow, you know how to do this from behind the desk, come to set. And so that kind of triggered my next step into, what am I going to do? Do I want to just use this to be an assistant, or do I want to dive deeper into the creative world? And then I would say also Camille Yorick, who followed her as the head of creative, really just taught me the value of relationships, and really knowing who you're working with, and valuing who you're with, and who you speak to, and what you take from them, what you give to them, and cultivating those relationships, because it's a big but a small industry. And ever since I moved from New York to LA, changed companies, but I still work with the same people, or touch back to certain people, or some people come over, and, like, I'm speaking specifically to music, but it's like, a lot, you learn how small it is, because it's like, I remember looking at job descriptions when I was in college, and it's like 5+ years of experience, 10+ years of experience. You have this feeling like, I'm never going to get there.
When am I going to get there?
But you get in there, and like 5 years goes like that. And it's like, who did you meet? Who do you know? Who did you take the time to speak to, and ask those couple extra questions, or send that follow-up email? And, all those little things are just like really cultivating a relationship, and a working relationship. It might grow into a friendship, but it's like really cultivating a great network for yourself, of those above you, of those coming below you, your peers, anybody, because at some point it all evens out. And we're all working together, and we're all kind of moving through these same spaces. So, the value of really, like, knowing your worth, showing your worth, and cultivating relationships has brought me a long, long way.
For sure. Kate, last but not least, mentor.
Yeah. I would say I've had a lot of mentors throughout my life. I don't know if they would be like, call themselves mentors to me, but yeah, in different aspects of my career growth and personal growth, have had people in my corner that I would go to and ask questions to, and that they were doing the stuff that I wanted to learn, and have always kind of been open to sharing. I'm a very curious creature, so even I'll, if I would love to ask all of you guys so much about all of your careers. So I think that just came innate in me, and it has incognito made a lot of people in my life mentors.
Fire. All right, ladies, I have one final question, and then we're going to wrap this up. If you left music, or Kate, in your instance, cannabis industry, if you left the industry today, what's one thing that you would hope to leave and be remembered for in a positive light?
Fire weed. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, that's not a bad thing.
That's a legacy.
And I want to say I have smoked your weed before.
Yeah?
I bought it off this app.
I love it.
Ooh, live consumer review. I like it.
Yeah. I love it.
I bought like the big.
This.
Oh, it was in the bag.
Oh yeah, we just changed. Now it actually is in the glass jar. It's not in the bag anymore, but same weed.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I think I'll stick with my answer.
Okay, cool. I love it. Millie, what about you?
A fire show, like that's what I want to leave behind. I want this show to be a legacy and to be like something that's remembered. And so everybody, tune in VITV on YouTube.
Yep, we'll do the self promo. We'll do the self
At the
promo right.
end, yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, but yes,
All good.
That's what I want to leave behind. So
nice, Akilah.
I would say, I would hope that probably providing opportunities. I really think that hip hop is like one of the world's greatest fairy tales. It's just amazing to watch where it's come from, where it's going. And, if my little piece of that is helping an artist, helping, a director, I think a legacy of like providing opportunity is what I'd love to leave behind.
Nice. Paula?
Yeah, for me, I think it's, being a launch pad for all types of emerging talent, from emerging artists being discovered through what I've done and launching their careers to, emerging A&R executives that are going to have long, successful careers in the music business, and being a super connector, just knowing how to connect the right people so that they can get to making deals faster and benefit from those connections I make for them.
Nice. And last but certainly not least, Cherise, what are you trying to leave behind and what would you like to be known for?
I just want like my work to be so solid and everything that I do to be so like, legendary. The things that I do, the way that, I feel like I'm like, not changing, but just like going with the way technology is and kind of like paying attention. I how like Young Thug has kids, Nicki Minaj has like sons. I just want to leave like a bunch of like education to like people that are like younger than me, because I feel like schools are a lot behind usually, especially in college. Like they're always like super behind. So like even if it's like through internships or mentorships or even just people that come to me and talk to me, I just want to spread the word and the knowledge about like how social media works, how social media works, how creating digital content works, and how to stay on top of like trends. And just on top of that, just like the way people consume content is very, very important. And I just want to, because the journalism thing is kind of like, and I feel like this is kind of like what's sadly replacing it. So just for like those young girls out there that are hoping to get into journalism or and things of that nature, like you can still write, you can still do those things, but this is kind of like what's going on right now. So just like getting involved in like the script writing and still storytelling, but just like leaving those kids behind with the knowledge, so they could say maybe, they got their knowledge from me or they learned from me. I feel like, and to be proud to say that, I feel like would be good enough for me.
Love it. Thank you all so much for joining me this evening. Really quick, I want to give everyone an opportunity to plug their stuff, your book, your show, your organization, whatever it is. So Kate, we'll start with you. Really quick, where can everyone find your goodies?
We're in a ton of dispensaries, but the way to find it is go on missgrass.com or follow us on Instagram at missgrass. If you want to get our weed, go to missgrass.com, and we have a stockist page so you can see the local dispensary or delivery store by you to get it delivered.
Woo! All right, Millie, where can we find VITV?
All right. You can find me on Instagram at I Love Mills, and the show is at JDNHRRS_VITV, as you see here on the screen, or you can just search VITV on YouTube, and it's Viral in the Verse, and that's where you can find it. Every 1st and 15th.
Every 1st and 15th.
Yes.
Akilah, where can we find you at on Instagram?
I am at Akilah Robinson. Some some work. I don't really have anything to plug, but
Plug yourself.
follow me for the
We'll
joy.
follow
I don't know.
We'll follow you for the fun. Paula, where can we find your book?
Oh, I'll get one out of the box.
Oh, you can also follow Paula's and our launchpad at _HQ_music discovery.
See that?
And Grit and Glitter, yes.
Ooh.
Out. Glitter and Grit, Be Greater as a Creative is out on Amazon now, right? You said, Paula?
Well, I think it's on Amazon tomorrow, but you can actually, if you want the signed and numbered copies, we have them linked on Greater Than HQ_music discovery. That's my startup.
Cool. Nice. So everyone head there to get a signed copy of Miss Paula's book. And last but certainly not least, Cherise, where can we find you? And all of your good content.
My social media handle is your Cherise Moore everywhere. Instagram, Twitter. No, not TikTok, but Instagram and Twitter. It's your Cherise Moore. And I guess what I should plug are the shows that I work on. So
yeah, absolutely.
YouTube.com/uprocks. That's all of the digital content I work on. Every Thursday we drop an Uprock sessions. And every week we're dropping a React Like You Know episode. And every once in a while you'll find a How I Blew Up dropping there too. So I would say just keep a lookout, follow us on our YouTube channel. And yeah, I feel like we have some really good stuff coming out. I also want to plug in a show. I'm not working on the show per se, but it's a show that I'm super excited about that we have coming out. It's called Fresh Pair. It's a sneaker show.
Ooh.
I'm not gonna say who's on it. We have Just Blaze hosting it, and we also have a young lady, Patty Custom. She's like customizing all the shoes. It's not your regular sneaker show. I think it's gonna come out in May, and yeah, I just want to plug that in. Y'all keep on the lookout for that.
Nice. So y'all stay on the lookout for that. So that wraps up today's panel. Again, Kate, Millie, Akilah, Paula, Cherise, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for joining me this evening, for sharing your stories and your knowledge. This has been my first Women's History Month here at Airbit, and I mean, this panel just completely in a nutshell wrapped it all up and put a bow on it. And I just thank you guys for sharing your insight and your stories with us. Make sure you guys give all of these ladies a follow, support their craft, support women everywhere in the industry, and y'all have a wonderful evening. Thanks again, everyone. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye, Brittany. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Great to meet all you all.